Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. Beneath the relentless sun, the sands of Acheris stretched endlessly, a desolate expanse where the horizon shimmered with the heat of a blistering day. The wind howled through the desert, carrying with it the whispers of a long-forgotten curse. The desert, once a place of thriving life, was now a barren wasteland, feared by all who lived near its borders. The city-state of Tharsis, once a jewel in the crown of ancient civilizations, had been abandoned, its name spoken only in hushed tones by those who remembered its tragic fate. Aiden squinted against the sun, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon. The ranger, with his weathered face and strong build, had seen many landscapes, but none as unforgiving as this. His hand rested on the hilt of his sword, the leather grip worn from years of use. Beside him, his team trudged forward, their steps heavy with the weight of the journey ahead. They were no strangers to danger, but Acheris was unlike any place they had ever ventured. Lena, the archer, moved with a grace that belied the deadly precision she wielded with her bow. Her sharp eyes caught every movement, every shift in the sand that might signal danger. She had tied a cloth around her face to protect herself from the stinging sand, but even that did little to keep out the oppressive heat. Drake, a towering figure of muscle and grit, carried a massive battle axe slung over his shoulder. His brawn had saved the team more times than they could count, but in this desert, even his strength seemed small against the vastness that surrounded them. Elara, the scholar, was the smallest of the group, her slight frame barely able to carry the heavy satchel filled with ancient texts and scrolls she had insisted on bringing. But what she lacked in physical strength, she more than made up for with her keen mind. Her knowledge of ancient languages and forgotten histories was what had brought them to this cursed land in the first place. She was the one who had found the ancient texts that spoke of the desert heart, a gem said to hold the power to cleanse the curse that had befallen Tharsis. As they ventured deeper into the desert, the oppressive heat and the shifting sands began to take their toll. The sun beat down on them without mercy, and the wind seemed to mock their every step, pushing against them as if the desert itself was trying to keep them away. But Aiden's resolve was unshakable. He had faced death before, and he knew that the only way to survive was to keep moving forward, no matter the cost. They had been traveling for days, and the landscape around them had not changed. It was as if they were walking in circles, the desert playing tricks on their minds. But Elara assured them they were on the right path. Her maps, ancient and worn, showed the way to the lost city of Tharsis, where the desert heart was said to be hidden. She had spent countless nights poring over the texts, deciphering the cryptic symbols in ancient language that had long been forgotten by the world. One night, as they huddled around a small fire, Aiden noticed a change in the air. The wind had died down, and a strange stillness had settled over the desert. The sky above was a deep indigo, the stars scattered like diamonds across the vast expanse. But there was something else, something just beyond the edge of perception. Aiden could feel it in his bones, a sense of foreboding that made his skin crawl. Lena, Drake, Elara, Aiden said, his voice low. "Do you feel that?" Lena nodded, her hand instinctively going to her bow. "The air, it's different." Drake grunted, his eyes scanning the darkness beyond the firelight. "Feels like we're being watched." Elara looked up from her scrolls, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The texts mentioned something about this. The closer we get to Tharsis, the more the curse takes hold. The desert itself is alive, a guardian of sorts, meant to keep intruders out." Aiden's grip tightened on his sword. "Then we're close." They slept in shifts that night, each one keeping watch while the others rested. But rest was fleeting in this cursed land. The desert was silent, unnervingly so, and every rustle of sand or gust of wind put them on edge. Aiden's mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. The stories of Tharsis were filled with horror, tales of a once great city brought to ruin by its own hubris. The desert heart was their only hope of lifting the curse, but the gem was as dangerous as it was powerful. As dawn broke, the team packed up their camp and continued their journey. The landscape began to change subtly. The sand, once golden and fine, became coarser, and the ground beneath their feet felt more solid, as if they were walking on the remnants of an ancient road. Elara pointed out symbols etched into the stones, worn by centuries of wind and sand, but still faintly visible. They were nearing Tharsis. The first sign of the lost city came in the form of a crumbling wall, half buried in the sand. It was massive, the stones weathered but still standing tall, a testament to the engineering marvels of the ancient world. The wall stretched out in both directions, disappearing into the dunes. Aiden could see the faint outline of structures beyond it, barely visible through the shimmering heat. "We're here," Elara whispered, her voice filled with awe and trepidation, but Tharsis was not the grand city it once was. The curse had twisted it, turning the once majestic buildings into hollow shells. The streets were filled with the remnants of the city's past, crumbling statues and decaying monuments that spoke of a civilization long lost to time. The air was thick with the remnants of the curse, an oppressive energy that made it difficult to breathe. The team moved cautiously, their senses on high alert. The city was silent, save for the occasional creak of stone as the structures settled into their eternal decay. As they ventured deeper into the city, they encountered the first of the twisted creatures that now called Tharsis home. The creatures were barely recognizable as once human, their bodies warped and distorted by the curse. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and their movements were jerky, as if they were being controlled by an unseen force. Aiden drew his sword, signaling the others to ready themselves. The creatures attacked with a ferocity that belied their decrepit appearance. Lena's arrows flew true, each shot finding its mark, while Drake swung his axe with devastating power, cleaving through the creatures as if they were made of paper. Elara stayed back, using her knowledge of the city's layout to guide them through the streets, avoiding the densest concentrations of the cursed beings, but the creatures were relentless, and the team was forced to retreat into one of the larger buildings, barricading the entrance with whatever they could find. Inside, the air was cooler, the thick stone walls providing a respite from the heat outside. They could hear the creatures outside, their guttural moans echoing through the halls. "We can't keep this up," Drake said, his breath heavy. "There's too many of them." "We won't have to," Elara said, her eyes scanning the room. "We're close to the sanctum. The texts say it should be just beyond the central square." Aiden nodded, wiping the sweat from his brow. "Then we move quickly. We get the desert heart and get out of here." They waited until the creatures outside had dispersed before making their move. The central square of Tharsis was once the heart of the city, a place where people gathered, where markets thrived, and where the rulers held court. Now, it was a desolate place, the once beautiful fountain at its center dry and crumbling, the statues of the city's heroes defaced and broken. At the far end of the square stood the entrance to the sanctum, a massive stone door adorned with intricate carvings. The door was slightly ajar, as if inviting them in. Aiden hesitated for a moment, his instincts screaming that this was a trap, but they had come too far to turn back now. They entered the sanctum, their footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. The room was filled with ancient machinery, gears and pulleys that had long since rusted into silence. At the center of the room, suspended above a deep chasm, was the desert heart. The gem was unlike anything they had ever seen, glowing with a soft, ethereal light that seemed to pulse in time with their heartbeats. But the desert heart was not unguarded. As they approached, the ancient machinery roared to life, and from the shadows emerged the guardian of the desert heart. The guardian was a towering construct of stone and metal, its eyes glowing with the same light as the gem it protected. It moved with a grace that belied its massive size, its every movement deliberate and purposeful. The guardian spoke in a language none of them understood, its voice deep and resonant, echoing through the chamber. Elara stepped forward, trying to decipher the words, but the guardian was not interested in conversation. It attacked with a speed that took them all by surprise, its massive arms sweeping through the air with the force of a hurricane. Aiden barely had time to react, raising his sword to block the blow. The force of the impact sent him sprawling, his sword knocked from his hand. Lena and Drake moved in, their weapons striking at the guardian, but their attacks barely scratched its surface. The construct was made of something far stronger than stone or metal. Elara frantically searched the texts she had brought with her, her mind racing to find a way to stop the guardian. The ancient language was difficult to decipher, but she knew the answer was there, hidden in the riddle that had stumped scholars for centuries. As she read, the words began to make sense, the pieces falling into place. "The riddle," she shouted, "it's the key to deactivating the guardian. We need to solve it, or we won't stand a chance." Aiden, struggling to his feet, looked at her. "What does it say?" Elara's eyes darted across the text. It's about the heart, not the gem, but our hearts. The guardian was designed to protect the desert heart, but also to test the resolve of those who seek it. We need to show that we are worthy, that our intentions are pure. The guardian paused for a moment, as if considering Elara's words, then it attacked again, this time with even greater force. Aiden and the others fought desperately, trying to fend off the construct while Elara worked to decipher the rest of the riddle. Finally, Elara found the answer. "We need to place our weapons in the chasm. The guardian won't stop until we prove we are not a threat." Aiden hesitated. To give up their weapons in a place like this was suicide, but they had no choice. He nodded to the others, and one by one, they tossed their weapons into the chasm. As the last weapon fell, the guardian stopped its assault. It stood still for a moment, then slowly, its massive form began to crumble, the light in its eyes fading as it fell to pieces. The chamber was silent once more. Aiden approached the desert heart, now unguarded, and carefully took the gem in his hands. It was warm to the touch, and as he held it, he could feel a strange sense of peace wash over him. The curse that had plagued Tharsis for centuries was finally broken. With the desert heart in their possession, the team made their way back through the city. The creatures that had once hounded them seemed to have vanished, as if the breaking of the curse had banished them as well. The city was still a desolate place, but there was a sense of calm now, as if the land itself was beginning to heal. The journey back through the desert was no less arduous, but with the desert heart, they had a sense of purpose, a reason to push forward despite the hardships. They reached the edge of the desert just as the sun was beginning to set, the sky painted in shades of orange and red. In the distance, they could see the city-state that had sent them on this perilous journey. The people of Tharsis had waited in fear and hope, unsure if the team would ever return. But as they approached, the sight of the desert heart in Aiden's hands brought cries of joy and relief. The curse was lifted, and Tharsis was saved. The desert heart was placed in the center of the city, where it would remain as a symbol of hope and renewal. The land began to flourish once more, the once barren fields now teeming with life. The city itself was reborn, its people no longer living in fear but looking forward to a future filled with promise. Aiden, Lena, Drake, and Elara stood on the edge of the city, looking out over the now thriving land. They had faced insurmountable odds, battled creatures born of darkness, and uncovered secrets long buried by time. But through it all, they had relied on each other, their bond stronger than any curse or ancient magic. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, Aiden felt a sense of peace. They had done what they had set out to do, not through magic or power, but through their own resolve and determination. The desert heart was a reminder that even in the darkest of places, light could be found, and hope could prevail, and with that, they turned away from the desert, leaving behind the cursed land that had tested them in ways they could never have imagined. But they carried with them the knowledge that they had succeeded, not just in breaking the curse, but in proving that the human spirit could overcome even the greatest of challenges. The desert was still, the winds carrying away the last remnants of the curse. The stars above shone brightly, as if celebrating the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. And somewhere, deep within the heart of the desert, the echoes of their journey lingered, a testament to the power of courage, friendship, and the enduring strength of the human soul.